This is Greg Troutline with Maritime Reporter TV, and we're very pleased to be joined today by Liz Schmidt, the Executive Director, Women Offshore, to discuss this organization and its mission. So, Liz, to start us off, can you give us a short personal and professional background leading to your role as the Executive Director of Women Offshore?
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited to share about the resources of our organization. So I have been involved in the marine industry as a whole, so to speak, for pretty much my entire life. I have grown up boating and being a part of the maritime culture. I've done a lot of boating on Lake Superior and the Great Lakes. So I'm from Minnesota originally. We are the land of 10,000 lakes. And but like a lot of people, boating or the maritime industry was never really something that was shown to me as a career, and especially a lucrative career for women. And so my career trajectory started off in the nonprofit sector. So I worked for, right out of college, I worked for the Red Cross and later the YMCA, running programs and operations for those respective nonprofits, and getting some really great experiences in programming development, fundraising, and nonprofit as a whole. Then during COVID, much like lots of folks, well, prior to that, I moved to Fort Lauderdale because of one of my nonprofit jobs, and got introduced to the world of yachting. So Fort Lauderdale is the yachting capital of the world, depending on what part of the world you're in. But we do see most of the world yachts at some point coming through Fort Lauderdale. And so I got introduced to this very cool part of the marine industry and very exclusive. And so I want to work on those. I want to see what that's like. So I had the opportunity to do that a little bit, and then while continuing my full-time work in nonprofit. Then COVID hit, and nonprofits, like many organizations, but particularly nonprofit gyms, such as the YMCA, took a pretty big hit. And so I was in a high up director operational level at that point. They had to keep me on, but my pay kept getting cut. And so I decided at that point it was a great opportunity to make a transition. So I transitioned into the maritime industry, into the yachting industry specifically, using the connections that I had built over the years of doing part-time or quarter-time work in the industry. So I had some great experiences working on deck on yachts up to 120 feet. I did some deliveries, had some great opportunities to do some tow-ins. If anyone's familiar with Fort Lauderdale, we have a river that you have to tow yachts up in order to get them to the shipyards. So I was a part of those operations and learning that. I also had a few experiences on passenger vessels, passenger ferries as well. Had got my captain's license, so I worked as a captain as well locally here on the waters in Fort Lauderdale, and had a great experience through all of that. I also had the opportunity to be part of a yacht manufacturing company called Shipyard Supply USA. We manufacture fenders and mooring products for yachts over 100 feet. And under a rebrand of the company, at that point, I said, well, I'm helping out, I'm doing all this work, you got to make me partner. So I became partner in that company, which I am still today, and was doing that work and growing our business locally as well as internationally in the yachting sector. And then received a phone call from a maritime recruiter that said, we have a job that aligns exactly with your credentials. And so took the call and got introduced to Women Offshore and the fantastic work that this organization does. And so I'm their part-time executive director, and I've been in that role for almost 2 years.
Let's switch gears here and look at women offshore today. And, can you give us a by the numbers look that gives the key insights and data so our viewers have a sense of the size, the scope, and the reach of women offshore?
Yeah, definitely. So we are a full 501(c)(3) nonprofit organization. We are based here in the US. However, we have a global reach, so we work with mariners all over the world. We have some of the ways that we do that is mainly through digital and through things like our podcast as well as our online presence. So we have a large social media following. We utilize that as a way to connect with mariners as well as showcase women who are doing jobs offshore as a way to help other women in the industry see that they are not the only ones, but for future mariners to showcase what women can do and see women who hopefully look like them and represent them in their cultures doing these jobs. And so we do that through our Instagram and our social and our Facebook page. We also have a large LinkedIn following, and so we use that as a way to connect with industry, keep industry abreast of current issues that are going on, and as well as making sure that resources are shared. So whether it's through resources developed through Women Offshore or resources developed by other organizations, that we're amplifying those out so that companies also know what's available to them. Through this, we have a collective reach last year of about 1 million individuals, a little over 1 million individuals through our online efforts that we've been able to reach through Women Offshore. In addition to that, we have a podcast that we release every other Tuesday, so twice a month. Our podcast is focused on women in the industry, but however, we focus on all jobs, all aspects, great stories, these stories, and as once again, as a way to spotlight either industries that are doing great work for mariners and mariner welfare, or individuals in the industry who have accomplished greatness. And so that's another way that we connect. We also interject in our podcast every once in a while to talk about any current events or current issues, or resource share with our mariners who listen to the podcast as a way to connect them to the organization.
That's
We
awesome.
also have an ambassador program. So currently we have 9 ambassadors for 2026 across the globe. These ambassadors are focused on different sectors in the maritime industry. These women have great insight into their particular sector of the industry, their region that they live in. Like I said, these are global individuals, live all around the world. And so we utilize them to help amplify our message, but also to have that connection to somebody who's working offshore in a variety of jobs so we can get some feedback from them, as well as their colleagues as to how the industry could be doing better or what is the pulse of happening of the mariner offshore. So in addition to that, we have a mentorship program. Our mentorship program connects mariners at all facets of their career. We have a rolling admission process, so anyone can check out our mentorship program and apply to be a mentor or a mentee. And then we also do have groups as well through our mentorship program. So sometimes we'll put a group of cadets, maybe deck cadets, in a group, and we'll give them to one mentor, and they all work together in a cohort. But our mentorship program is a great way to be able to figure out, if you're at a certain part of your career, where you're going and what you're doing. In addition to that, we have a 2-day conference where we work on personal and professional development initiatives for individuals in the maritime industry. And we also do have an annual gala where we raise funds to be able to operationally continue our work, but as well as to support our scholarship and our sponsorship program for individuals looking for financial assistance to continue their career path in the industry.
So what exactly then is the mission of Women Offshore? And I guess, how does this play into the greater issue of recruitment and retention in offshore and the maritime industries?
Yeah, so our mission is to connect mariners within the industry to be able to have an industry where all individuals are able to succeed. And so we work with companies, we work with individual mariners on the recruitment side. We work with a lot of companies to help with their recruitment practices. So whether it's helping them to amplify what jobs they have available, why they're a great company to work for, why an individual would want to work for that company, as well as to those mariners working specifically and individually with those, saying, hey, there's a really good job at XYZ company. We know the HR team there. Let's get you connected so that you can start some conversations and get that application started. And we find that a lot of times in the recruitment from both the mariner side or the job seeker side and the company side, if we're able to help bridge that directly, we're finding that we're able to help women get those jobs. So while we're not doing job placement or crewing, we are making sure to help bridge those gaps and essentially acting like as a super networker for individuals and companies.
Wow, that's amazing. So, and again, just so I understand the structure correctly, is Women Offshore a membership organization?
So not for the individual mariner. So we work to have all of our programming at no cost to the mariner. So all of the programming that I talked about, our mentorship programming, our career services programming, those things are all offered to the mariner at no cost. We have a corporate membership program, and our corporate members do donate to the organization and receive opportunities for program amplification, for deliverables. So we will work with that company to help them individualize some type of deliverable that they're looking for, whether that's a training, whether that's assistance and review on best practices for policies and things like that. And so we work a little bit like a consultancy in that space, but providing an added value to our corporate members. But to the individual mariner, all of our resources are offered at no cost.
Can you give a synopsis of what you see as one of the most important programs that Women Offshore offers to help it achieve its mission?
Absolutely. That would be our career services programming. And so we have a dedicated staff member who's director of career support, Christine Macmillan, and she does a fantastic job working at that individual level with that mariner on career support. She is a trained and certified career coach. And so, as part of a process working with mariners at their career, either entering in the industry or career transition, she can offer them at no cost. We offer sessions of career coaching. So, we offer about 4 sessions of career coaching to help somebody really figure out, A, is this industry right for you? Is the job you're seeking within the industry correct for you? Or if you're looking for a career transition, what are you doing? Where are you at in life? And how can we best support you? Or how can you best support yourself in a career transition? And when I talk career transition, what we find a lot is it's women who are, or individuals who are offshore and they're looking to transition shoreside. And what we find is there's not a lot of resources available to mariners about how to do that. And even within their own companies, there's a few that have resources, but not a whole lot have those resources spelled out about how to do it, how to update your CV to a resume, what you need, how to conduct a job interview to talk about some of those soft skills that you have that could work in an office setting versus some of those skills you have working offshore. And so that's what we do with our career services program. And when we do our career services or career support programming, we when we work with those individual mariners, we're also helping, like I mentioned, to connect them with those companies. So Christine has an idea. She's got a great pulse on what's going on in the industry, what jobs are needed. And we get that because companies help us help them. So they tell us, hey, we've got job openings here. We've got lots of openings in this, or we've got a particular job. We're having a really hard time filling it. And we want, we're looking for this particular demographic of person in that job. And so what Christine does is when she's talking to that individual mariner, she's thinking, okay, where could we put this person? How can I better connect this person to a job? So we're really working on keeping that pipeline moving of mariners, whether it's entering into the industry or that career transition, like I've said so many times. But I think that's really important as a way to address this workforce crisis that we're seeing in the industry is we have to get them in, but we have to keep them once we're here. And I think listening to especially a lot of our cadets nowadays are talking about already that career transition. Oh, I'm going to go offshore. I'm going to work for a few years, but I know I'm going to want to come shoreside. And so having them help develop what that 5, 7, 10-year plan looks like, and working with those cadets early on, we're going to hopefully mitigate some of these issues we're dealing with right now with our millennials, our elder millennials who are looking to that job transition and haven't really ever been talked to about what that is.
Everybody loves a case study. Can you walk us through a couple of examples where women offshore has achieved success in the maritime and or offshore sectors?
Absolutely. One of the major kind of paramount successes to our organization was our work in getting the SAVE Act passed in the U.S. So the SAVE Act is landmark legislation that works with Jones Act vessels to ensure that there's compliance and safety regulations surrounding potential issues of sexual assault and sexual violence on board vessels. So the SAVE Act was passed requiring vessels to have a variety of additional controls on board, whether that's video monitoring, whether that's master key control. There's additional set of requirements to ensure that our cadets are safe. And this work was done by the Women Offshore team, tirelessly working with members of the government, working with other individuals in the industry to really push out and make sure that this gets passed. And so the SAVE Act was passed. We're seeing it becoming implemented across the U.S. fleet. But we're also seeing, because of that, we're seeing companies who are putting this on their U.S. vessels saying, this is great stuff. We should be putting this on our other vessels. And what are some ways that we can work to enforce that? And so over the past year, we've been working with insurance industry and talking to them a little bit about what are some ways that we can provide best practice guidance that if vessels put some of these controls on board that makes all mariners safer, then we can hopefully we can find ways to have the SAVE Act work just outside the walls of the U.S. So that's really some paramount things that we have done. And we've also worked with the U.S. Coast Guard and the U.S. Coast Guard Investigative Service. So coming out of the SAVE Act, the U.S. Coast Guard Investigative Service is now required by law to investigate incidences that are called into the CGIS tip line. And there's a lot of, or was initially, and still maybe is, a little bit of apprehension to call and report. And so these individuals, when they call and report in, it's kept anonymous as much as it can. Eventually, at some point, it can't be, but initially it's kept anonymous, but the Coast Guard is required to contact a vessel or go to a vessel to start an investigation. There's a flow chart that's been created by the U.S. Coast Guard that was issued to all mariners, showing them this is the process and this is where the determinations go of how something will be investigated. So showing that when something is called into CGIS tip line, it is investigated and it goes through a series of checkpoints to ensure that it gets investigated fully. So when someone is calling something in, it's not just getting put in a pile, it's actually getting addressed. And so that's some work that we're really proud of that we've done to help not only here in the U.S., but seeing some global ramifications of that across with the work that we've been able to do.